All right, man. So let's talk New Orleans Saints here for a little bit. Obviously, the Saints very active early in the free agency period, of course, signing Derek Carr, bringing him as their new franchise quarterback. But there's new developing news out of New Orleans that shows an even bigger, or in my opinion, even bigger move. Could be just as big. I think it's a huge move the Saints managed to pull off today, and what I think could be potentially one of the steals of the offseason.
Yeah, Nick, the Saints have made a lot of moves early on in the free agency period. And when your team is making a lot of moves, it does feel good. That it makes you feel like they're doing something. And that's why I want to know in the comments below from the Saints fans, what has been your favorite move thus far? There's a lot to pick from so far. So let us know in the comments below. What is your favorite move the Saints has made? But Nick, you're alluding to it. What is the biggest move that you think the Saints have made?
Yeah, so the Saints have, obviously, aside from signing Derek Carr, most of the moves they made this offseason is re-upping a lot of guys, some contract restructures, bringing some guys into the fold that were free agents. And one guy that was rumored to be potentially be leaving New Orleans due to salary cap reasons was superstar wide receiver Michael Thomas. But according to NOLA.com, he will stay in New Orleans State in an awesome deal for the football team. I'm going to read from the report here. The New Orleans Saints and the wide receiver, talking about Thomas, are expected to agree to a restructured contract that will diminish Thomas's 2023 salary cap hit, ensuring he will be back with the team this season. According to an ESPN report, Thomas will earn $10 million this season on this new deal, with incentives that can take it as high as $15 million. So again, that will only be a one-year deal for $10 million, pretty much guaranteed, with incentives to drive it up to $15 million. There was rumored to be a split because I think he was owed a $31 million roster bonus, I think, as of tomorrow. So a lot of people thought the most likely situation would be Thomas would get cut, then maybe come back, or they'd have to agree to a long-term restructuring that wouldn't be a very team-friendly deal because it seemed Michael Thomas, if the Saints don't want him to leave in free agency, maybe go somewhere else. Thomas had leverage when it came to that. But the Saints and Thomas agreed on an awesome deal for New Orleans with a lot of upside and no downside. 1 year, $10 million, potentially up to $15 million to keep a guy who, when he's at his best, when he's healthy, he's one of the best wide receivers in football. Miles, I think this is potentially the steal of the offseason so far. I did not think the Saints were going to be able to keep Michael Thomas for such a cheap, team-friendly deal. Give me your thoughts on this move, Miles, and everything with the Saints so far.
Yeah, it's really great because, as you alluded to, when he's good, he's the best. Michael Thomas has been he can get to the level of the highest high. It's always talking about, can a guy return to form? Can he get back to that level? And when Michael Thomas is at that level, he's top three type of wide receiver in the NFL. So this is a big thing for the Saints here. And I really like the deal. There's not too much into it, a 1 year deal, almost like a prove it deal for Michael Thomas. He's been dealing with a lot of stuff, injuries. If you could stay healthy, if you can return to form, I imagine the Saints will probably go forward working on another deal for Thomas. But for the time being, Michael Thomas, this new deal, it gives Derek Carr back a potential superstar weapon, something he's been used to in his career. Having Amari Cooper, having Devontae Adams, always had a guy he could trust. Maybe he can start off building a rapport with Michael Thomas. But there's a number of other moves the Saints have made, and I just think that they're gearing up for a really, really big offseason. Nick, you see the signing of tight end re-signing of tight end Juwan Johnson. I think that would be a big one for Derek Carr as well. Re-upping Jameis Winston for the backup quarterback role. I just think the Saints are doing a lot of really heavy lifting on their own side of the things, on their team side, early on in the free agency, and we're going to see if they're going to reach out and look for other people after they take care of the guys in-house.
Miles, I think the thing that really jumped out at me is that for a number of years, everyone's been alluding to, and I've been on this train at a number of times as well. It's like, look, what Mickey Loomis is doing as the general manager of the New Orleans Saints, how he structures cap deals, eventually that will come back to bite him. He can't keep extending and restructuring deals out in the future. Well, in the Michael Thomas case, he restructured the deal, signed them big deal, I think 4 years ago, restructured it a few times along the way. I think last offseason, in fact, or this offseason, he did it to open up cap space, but that pushes dollars out into the future. And everyone's like, look, that money's going to be eventually is going to have to come due, right? But it didn't happen because they got Michael Thomas to agree to a 1 year deal. So they pushed all that money out into the future. They restructured his deal in a way that wasn't team friendly for the long term. And in the end, they get Michael Thomas on a short team friendly deal. there may be something genius behind what Loomis is doing in New Orleans. I've never seen a franchise pull off what the Saints have done. I thought for sure they weren't going to be able to keep Michael Thomas, at least certainly not on a deal like this, just because of the way they had structured and restructured over the past few years. But credit to Loomis, he got the job done. And if you look at the Saints roster, and you kind of alluded to it, they are top down easily the best in the NFC South right now. And as long as injuries to Thomas and potentially to Derek Carr get in the way, I don't see anything stopping this team between winning the division next year.